It is an amazing day to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is that your story is your superpower. Some of you may totally get that. And for some of you, you might be like, I really don't get that because my story, for the most part, seems to be an anchor that weighs me down. And I can totally relate to that. But there can come a time when your story can be mean freedom for you, and if you choose to share it, freedom for other people as well. I am Terry Lee Harrison, and I am a story catalyst, a shame breaker. I love coaching around speaking business strategy, but helping people to own, embrace, and speak their story is my true calling, and it comes from my story. It comes from my story. I was doing an interview recently with someone who knows me now, didn't really know my story. He kept like his eyes and he kept shaking his head and his reactions as he was really getting to know all the things. And he looks at me on the Zoom and he said, "Is this why you're so passionate about helping people?" I said, "Yes, yes." A lot of times our calling comes from our experience, doesn't it? For sure, for sure. So today I'm going to address three different points with you about story. It's going to come from my heart and my experience and some strategy. But the first thing I'd love to do is just share with you about the first time I shared my story. Mm. So, my topic today can be for anyone who wants to listen in. It can also be for someone who feels called to share their story and has not done it yet. It can also be for those who've done some speaking, done some sharing, hasn't done it lately, and is getting ready to dive back in. Because we can have seasons. We can have seasons when we are really in the zone and doing the thing. We might take a break for whatever reason, but then we might want to get back into it. So let's talk about the first time that I shared my story. I am someone who was silent for 30 years about my story, what was going on with me, and some of you may be able to relate to that. And I found out the truth. I won't be divulging my whole story here in this live. We'll do that another live. But when I found out the truth at 42 years old, I just knew that I didn't want to be silent anymore. I wasn't speaking in this realm, but I'll tell you what, I was at the time living in Southern California, working with hundreds of business owners. I was speaking 3 times a week to groups of 15 to 25, and I was pretty comfortable with speaking at the time. I could be in my car, like don't have a speech planned, in my car on the way to see these business owners, think about what the issues were, the current challenges they were having were, and put together the thoughts I was going to share with them. And it was all customized and designed to help them. And I was very confident doing that. So when I decided, hey, I'm going to share this story, I felt so called. I knew after being quiet for so long that I did not want to be quiet about what God had done for me in my life. And so I pushed myself because this was new. This was new. But the day that I told my story, all that confidence and all that, I'm cool and I can do this, it wasn't there. And I want to tell you, if you've not set up an opportunity yet for you to share your story for the first time, I'm going to share how I did that. And you can choose to go big. You can always just choose to, I think a great way is to share with one person. And I had shared my story with one person here and there, trusted people who I love today, who were willing to sit there in the moment with me in my story. It's a very sacred, special place. So I approached my minister, maybe my minister's wife at the time, and I said, hey, I'd really love to speak my story. And we set up like a ladies' tea not a formal big old conference, but a ladies' tea at my church I was attending in Yorba Linda, California at the time. I doubt any of those women are listening now, but I would love to hear from them if they are. And that's because they gave me a great gift. Because I wasn't polished. I didn't really know what my message was. I just needed the gift of being able to get it out for the first time. And so here I was thinking I'm confident and I've got this. And when I went to speak that story and tell about what I've been through, to tell about the things I'd done for the first time, I had no tie. Today, you might know I'm a shame breaker, and I love to talk about shame and let's let go of our shame. I didn't know that then. All I knew was I wanted to share the story of what God had done in my life. And so there was no confidence that day. And I'm going to tell you what, I had that day the worst cotton mouth I've ever had in my life. Does anyone get cotton mouth when you speak? Just your mouth is so dry. It was like a head. It wasn't like it was stuffed with cotton balls like a squirrel. The dryness was extraordinary. And I want you to think, this is how I felt. I want you to think about, what if you had a cabin in the woods? It was a family cabin. People had not been there for years, for 30 years, let's say. That's how long I'd been, silent. And let's say after 30 years, you decide, hey, we're going to go fix that cabin. We're going to get it going. We would love to share this with our family and with the world, or at least our people. And you go and you turn on the water in that cabin. And at first the water sputters, and then it starts to come out. And when it comes out, it's all kinds of colors, right? And then eventually it flows freely and clear. It felt like that. It felt like the sputtering. I felt all the things. Because there's the emotion that some of you may know exactly what the emotions are and can name them. And if you can comment, I'd love to hear from you. But that was my experience. And bless those ladies. I didn't have a message for them. Today, I coach women and men the importance of our story tying to a universal message where people can relate to the emotions that you're feeling, and to have some teaching points, to compress your story and then do some teaching. But that day, all I had was my story. But I'll tell you what it did. It allowed me to take that calling that I had burning in my heart and to know that, okay, I can do this, and that I wanted to do this, that I no longer wanted to stay silent about what God had done in my life. And from there, it wasn't that I had a full booked speaking calendar and that I was totally awesome, please. Okay. But what I did was, as I then was traveling back to my hometown in Ohio, visiting my aunt, and I asked if I could just do something on a Saturday afternoon with the ladies at her church, where they had known me growing up. And it's not that I went to church there. We all lived 20 minutes away, but where I was able to again share. And that time I probably still didn't have my universal message, but I had pictures of my times in my life as I shared chronologically. And as long as I had another speaking engagement coming, something even months away, I felt like I was moving forward in my calling. Can any of you relate? We get better. You get better every time you speak. Speaking and this sharing your story, it's like a muscle that you build. Like when you start working out, you might find that you're sore, right? But you build the speaking muscle, you build your storytelling muscles. And so I don't know if you can relate to that. If you have a story about telling your story for the first time, I would love to know. I would love to know, because what I want you to know is, number one, I wasn't born a naturally great speaker. You can see that even today. You can see that even today. But you know what? I get better every time, and so does every other speaker. So does every other speaker. So let's go on now. And I talked a bit in a previous live about some of the things that hold us back from sharing our story. And I just want to dive in super quickly and touch on the big topic of shame. And that's that shame is when you feel bad about yourself as a person. And it's these things, we can feel shameful about telling our story. But what I want to speak about shame is that everybody has it. You are not alone. We all feel the I'm not enoughs. We all feel the feelings, every one of us. And so if that is some of what might be holding you back and sharing your story, or thinking that it's something that weighs you down, it's not freedom, or I'm going to sit in this, I don't know what to do about it. And because working on yourself and your story, it is one of the best gifts you can give yourself. I have my super great girl Kate behind me, and I say, we need to be the hero of our own life before we can go out and save and serve the lives of others. So many of us are able to help people in their life and help people transform and help them in so many ways, whether it is in their business, whether it is their health, their wealth, their relationships. I could go on and on. But until you've worked through your things and you are the hero in your own life, it's really hard to do that. I'm going to tell you that in my life, there have been so many times that, like, I have worked on things. I obviously am not afraid anymore to tell my story authentically. But over time, speaking to people, they'll see an issue and they'll be like, I think it's this. And I'll be like, I've already worked on that. But you know what? We are a person in progress, a person in process. And you know what? Just it's part of our life journey. It's part of our life journey. I really believe that once you let God transform your shame, that your story can be a gift of freedom for you and for everyone else. And so I encourage you to step out in that. And then last point here today, we have many stories we can tell. I could go on and on about the stories we could tell. I have an amazing list of story prompts that are excellent for social media if you are wanting to speak about your story, but it could be, I knew my life had to change when. If I could talk to my 12-year-old self, I would say, tell her this. A Bible verse that has always brought me through is this. If I had one thing to share with the world, it is this. Those are amazing stories, amazing thoughts. 3 stories I want to share with you today that you can share. Number 1 is your origin story. What has brought you to be the person you are today? We all have one. And I'm going to tell you what, we are all more alike than what we think. Don't think for a second that we're not. Our stories, the details are different, but the emotions are the same. And we all have a story. And some of our stories are way more dramatic than others, and that's okay. And that's okay. But your origin story, and no matter what you're speaking about, you might have a focus on just motivation. You might have a focus on speaking for business. You might have a focus for speaking for ministry. And for some of you, I talk about there's a combination where we sort of have a business streak. And at some point, your story of where you've come through, what you've come through, it's really critical. And it doesn't mean that when you speak that it needs to be the greater portion of your talk, but having that piece in there, it's critical. Like the other day when the gentleman interviewed me who knows me, and he says, is this why you do what you do? You know what? He and everyone else should really probably know that. That shouldn't be a secret. That's my special sauce, not my secret sauce. What is your special sauce that people need to know? Number 2, for the sake of sounding consistent, we have our origin story, and next is your faith story or your testimony. And sometimes that's somewhat combined. But there are some of you that majorly feel called, like I do, to tell your faith story. And being able to concisely do that, being able to say it in a way that's a message that everyone can take with them, a message that can help transform them, that doesn't just inspire them in the moment, but helps them say, oh man, I really need to change. Maybe it is your faith story that you want to work on. And then lastly, there's the business story. And I'm not just talking, there's one business story. I have a list of maybe 15 business stories you can tell that are all important, that all should be told at one time or another. It could be how your business began. It could be the vision for your business. What's your vision? It could be stories of how you help your clients. No matter what, these are all stories that should be told. I'm here today to encourage you in the telling of these stories, to work through feelings that you have about them, maybe work on you, to work on the strategy, the confidence. When we craft our stories, when we draft them and craft them. And let me say, I love AI. It's my brain's assistant. But I feel that your story, the original story, needs to come from you and your heart. AI doesn't have that, but you do. That's what makes you unique and special. And so I'm here today to encourage you, but also to invite you. I am holding a 3-day experience. It's a story amplifier experience where over 3 days, an hour a day, I'm going to dive into strategy on your origin story, day 1, to strategy, day 2, your faith story, and then day 3, the stories you can tell about your business. You can participate live. I'd love that. You can also catch the replay. If participating and getting information on how to join in for this complimentary 3-day experience is of interest to you, comment me below or DM me. I will get you the information. I would love for you to join me, and let's roll up our sleeves. Let's begin to craft out these stories. Let's begin to share them, and let's begin to learn the freedom that can come when you are authentically you. I'm here to tell you that your story matters. Your story is good enough. And in sharing them, it will allow you to receive more love for being you than you can ever imagine. I want to wish you a very blessed day. I'll see you soon.